What's up and welcome to the channel. You may have seen bits and pieces of this car in other videos. Today you're going to see the whole build. This is a 2017 Z06 automatic that we baselined at 502 rear wheel horsepower. Let's show you what we did to it. We started by removing the engine. We installed an all new Katech camshaft that we're going to tell you guys about shortly. We CNC ported the cylinder heads. We also did our new supercharger porting program and the supercharger snout porting for a 103mm throttle body. It's using the Katech 103mm throttle body, and we're upping the boost by installing an ATI damper with 15% overdrive and a 2.3-inch supercharger pulley. The 103mm throttle body works well in combination with the ported supercharger and snout, and it's fed by a Haltech air intake system. We've dressed up the engine with our Katech valve covers, powder coated in transparent blue, and our Katech coil relocation kit with MSD wires. Note that when we had the supercharger off, we removed the bosses that retain the coil pack wiring harness. This is required for clearance for the Katech coil relocation kit for use on the LT4. And of course, our exhaust system of choice is Corsa. We added the Corsa Sport exhaust system with the black diamond tips for that signature Corsa sound. In case you missed it, we're now offering the CNC ported supercharger and snout as a service. You can send in your supercharger to have it CNC ported. Pair the Katech ported supercharger, snout, and throttle body with Katech CNC ported cylinder heads, and you'll be adding a lot of power for use on the track. What you're gonna see now is Nick removing the engine, taking it over to our engine shop, and getting it prepared to install the camshaft, ported cylinder heads, and ported supercharger. We're here in our Spintron Valve Train Dynamics test cell. This is where we develop all of our camshaft packages and make sure they're stable and durable. Now we have an electric motor that drives what's called a buck. This is a block with a hole cut in the side. There's a crankshaft, but no pistons, no connecting rods, no bob weights. It's just driving one cylinder's worth of valve train. We place a laser in the hole on the side of the block, pointed at the valves, and we monitor the valve movement and plot that out on the computer. This cell can test up to 12,000 RPM. We can run durability in here. We used to run 30 hours of Le Mans testing before we ever raced the 24 hours of Le Mans. So we'll plot this information out on a computer and we can look and see when the valve is bouncing, when it's closing, or when the lifter is lofting over the nose of the cam. And we can tune these things by changing the valve spring, the installed height, all the weight of the components, and make sure that it's not beating up the valve train. It's going to last a long time. This is the process we go through when developing a new camshaft package, and that's what you're seeing in this Z06. Now that you've seen the build, let's check with Nick and see some of the steps that go into checking the car over before it's ready to go to the customer.
I'm here working under one of our C7s that we just finished up. It's on the drive-on hoist. We're getting ready to do a kind of our post-inspection before it leaves. I'm just going to walk around and just double check everything that we did. The engine was out on this car. We had done a bunch of work to it, and it's back in. It's back from dyno. Car's washed, so the final step is to throw it up on the drive-on and take a look. So the first thing I usually do is I pull it in, and usually the car's pretty warm when we check, just to verify any leaks. I always check around the oil pan. On this particular car, the oil pan is off, and you just want to verify that nothing is leaking. Another thing we check is up at the radiator, make sure there's no fluids coming out, because all that was apart. All the suspension is apart, so we go through and just kind of hand touch everything and make sure nothing loosened up on the dyno or on the street tuning that we do. After that, I tend to move backwards on the car. I check the exhaust. A lot of our cars do get aftermarket exhaust systems, and they tend to move around a lot once the car heats up. There's some hard points sometimes that on particular models that they hit, so we always double check here on this under tray. There's a couple clamp bolts on the inside that we check. Those all appear to be good. A lot of times when you drive the car, you'll hear, some noise rattling around if it has some hit issues. This car was pretty good. Continue moving back. We check the entire exhaust system. There's some hard points that it can hit up in here, and even the axle overs. They tend to move when the car heats up. They'll move inward and hit. That'll be these tubes here. They go up and over the axles, and then they come back and connect to the mufflers. You just want to double check and make sure all the clamps are tight, everything stayed where it was going to be. And then finally I check, it's kind of just an aesthetic thing. We like the tips to kind of stick out. It's more for appearance. And we even straighten them out so that they're, correct on the car. Yeah, so basically that's it under the car. Just a quick visual, and we've got a lot of information from driving it and double checking everything, but this is kind of the last thing that we do just to make sure that it's perfect when it leaves here. All right, so now we'll lower the car and we'll go under hood and we'll do our final check there. All right, we're under the hood now. This particular car, we had the engine out, so the ABS block is out, so we had to bleed the brakes. So I just verified that the fluid is correct in the master here, and then I just kind of go through and double check, make sure there's no wires anywhere that are loose or not tidied up. A lot of the PCV lines, just make sure that they're connected and tight and out of the way of stuff, and they just look visually correct. Another thing we check is the overflow bottle for the coolant. That can vary a little bit when we're driving it and going to the dyno. So I always give that a one last check over, and that's basically it.
We're calling this our Stage 4 package, which includes the damper and supercharger drive pulley, the upper supercharger pulley, the new camshaft, CNC ported heads, CNC ported supercharger, CNC ported supercharger snout, the 103mm throttle body, and the Haltech air intake system. Now all this on an automatic was good for 686 rear wheel horsepower, which is great for an automatic, considering this car baseline at 502. That's also 681 pound-feet of torque at 3,500 RPM. The baseline of the torque was 564. Now if you like this build and you want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button, click the like button, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll send you more videos like this.